Scott's case, turning a lemon into lemonade. Turning around underperforming businesses is the standard practice of an operating-centric firm like CD&R, formerly known as Clayton and Dubilier. They buy businesses that are in bad shape or severely underperforming with the view of improving their performance in a crisis-driven scenario usually. When you throw massive debt into the acquired company's balance sheet, necessitating heavy debt service demands, you are already in a turnaround setting at the closing. In 1986, C&D proposed that Scott's improve margins, generate survival cash from working capital immediately, and enhance revenues by repositioning its product offering and price points to match the realities of a more competitive landscape they operated in. In fact, the do-it-yourself market was in a steep decline, and Scott's position was eroding much more rapidly than originally thought. Additionally, and very importantly, there was this idea of launching a startup or making an acquisition doorway into the professional lawn care market. While the idea seemed nifty, the business was very different. It did not relate to Scott's core business in a meaningful manner. The immediate and compelling challenge was that Scott's would soon experience a cash default based on management's base forecast. Management's predictions showed that they would not be able to service their pro forma interest costs soon after the acquisition was completed. The only short-term hope was to achieve better results from a poorly managed working capital process. The feat was later likened to changing the engine in a Ferrari while driving at 110 miles per hour. We will use this case to feature the following turnaround execution topics: establishing a change mandate as an outsider, and overcoming managers' resistance to change, generating cash. In a turnaround, working capital management is critical for near-term survival. Cash is king. Overcoming real customer supplier resistance to new terms that you have to offer to enhance your working capital position. Utilizing focused incentives as a stimulant to produce improved results. The case also addresses several high-level strategic challenges. Resuscitating a company amidst an industry decline. Balancing bets with a buy or build decision into an adjacent and growing sector. Examining the possibility of milking cash into a liquidation mode to achieve a return in response to a declining industry. Operationally centric private equity firms like CD&R are leading turnaround change agents rather than advisors without skin in the game. Private equity firms offer ample examples of change agents at work. Such firms are not driven by financial engineering schemes or hoping/watching companies as they grow to capture their returns. This value framework requires tremendous change leadership acumen, as not only do you have the underperformance to correct, but the PE owner is fresh off the boat, inheriting a business with a dysfunctional management team in most cases. Often the buyout firm may have missed something crucial in the due diligence process that needs to be dealt with post-haste. The governance approach used by these firms is a model of value building for all businesses, regardless of ownership structure, public, family, or private. Enlightened governance, intense focus on value drivers, and application of incentives are why leading buyout firms outperform the typical public company or the vast majority of buy low, sell high buyout firms. The thinking behind and application of best practices in these cases can be universal. It works. What was the nature and size of the performance gaps that Scott faces? Assume that you are a turnaround guru and Clayton Dubilier wants to retain you to fix Scott's. Tell us what your approach would be before you take the assignment and what you might insist on in the engagement agreement with C&D. In Exhibit 7, there is a 120-day plan outlining a program to generate much-needed cash. As the owner, what else would you provide to ensure success? Now, imagine you have an appointment with a senior buyer at your largest customer, the the very, very difficult to deal with Walmart. You are seeking better terms on your receivables. Make the buyer an offer he can't refuse that benefits your cause. You will be called upon in class to make your case. Next, you visit one of your chemical suppliers at DuPont. You want better terms, shorter supply runs, and price concessions. Prepare to make your case in class. Internally, you need to convince your plant managers to transform their practices. Instead of producing long runs of a few products, production managers will have to deal with numerous setups and the changeovers during the high production periods. Make your change case in a meeting of top managers who are resistant to new ideas. In Exhibit 9, there is a discussion of the Joe Turlock problem. Let's assume it's hopeless, and he is a malcontent, universally sabotaging all efforts of the new owners. Assume there are no impediments to determination, legal or financial, that prohibit you from letting him go. Prepare to fire him in class after sharing your considerations of preferred place, time, and conditions. Following that, you will share specific challenges or differences in dismissal practices that exist in your own country of origin. The United States is different than, say, France, for sure in France, and also from state to state, from California to New York, for instance. So wherever you're from, think it through. What would you have to be concerned about in making this decision and implementing it? Would you launch an in-house startup or make an acquisition as the doorway into the professional lawn care market? Which is a better route and why? What do you need to believe about this market and required resources, the things you'll need to successfully execute your chosen strategy? Finally, there's a profit here in liquidation, potentially. Read the end game for declining industries that has been provided you and review Exhibit 12 in the case. How would you pursue this strategy? What impediments to liquidation do companies face in your country of origin? Finally, if you were CD&R, would you pursue the strategy of liquidation at all? A popular assignment when this case is taught at Tuck, INSEAD, or UC Berkeley follows. You'll be called upon to challenge the professor in the role of Scott's executive around these scenarios. Best you think it through in advance. Prepare to participate in role plays featuring terms, suppliers negotiating shorter supply runs, price give-ups, and slower payments. Customers, here comes Walmart. You're going to have to offer quite a bit, I think, to get better terms from them, so you'll need to find a way to give to gain. Buy-in. You'll need to convince plant managers to shift production strategy. Shorter runs with more products whistling through their plants versus longer runs. Why does it matter to them? And how will you convince them that the shift is essential? Actually role play that conversation with me. Poor Joe Turlock. We're going to fire him in class. So think a little bit about the implications of that. And we're also going to then discuss your country of origin or your state of origin and how you might handle it differently from place to place.